Okay, we're back for video 3. We spent a lot of time in these videos going over bases and allocating of losses and income and how to compute the bases. And you should look to Mike Piper's book to help get a big picture. But to maybe add a little bit to the big picture, let me just go quick review. The whole idea is that the S corporation is a pass-through to the shareholder, and so the shareholder gets everything. And we got to keep track of everything the shareholder gets, whether it's a plus, whether it's a minus, whether it's additional money put in or a loan, whether it's a distribution. Okay, enough of the jokes here. Yeah, this is the nose is the delta, the nose is the delta, right? For the plus and minuses. These are the pluses, this is the minuses, right? Okay, all right. I think I've done myself really justice here by creating this. So let's go back. The whole idea is that we have to, since the S corporation does not pay tax, it all falls to the shareholder. So the shareholder has to keep track of how much money did they pick up as income, and when did they get the distribution? Because if they get a distribution above and beyond their basis, that creates a new issue that we want to learn about. So let's do that now. That's the topic, same topic along the line of basis, where we're looking at the shareholder now. The shareholder has basis according to the formula, so you should get used to that formula. Copy that down on your papers for your quiz. Whatever the formula tells us the basis is, let's say it's $1,000, and now instead of looking at the income or losses that the shareholder gets, let's look at a distribution. We learned that distributions are really, most of the times, just distributing the S corporation, and this is from the S corporation, so let's do it this way. Let's make life a little bit more easier to follow. That's the shareholder. Here's the S corporation. Let's draw a line. So the S corporation makes distributions to the shareholder, and the shareholder has to, by using its basis, decides whether it's taxable to the shareholder. So, for example, $900 distribution coming from the S corporation. As you can see, based on the way we've done the basis so far, that just in the formula brings the basis down to $100. But because their basis was there, this distribution is not taxable. Not taxable. And that's great. Now let's say the distribution made by the S corporation, instead of 900, let's make that 1,500. Same basis, but now the shareholder gets $1,500. And according to the formula, we subtract this. So we subtract it. Now what we have, you have to think about this before I give you the answer. But one thing you can see is we have reduced the basis by $1,500 to a negative number. Now think about it. The basis that we're following here is what we call the basis in the stock for someone to decide whether they have a gain or loss if they sold it. No different than any other basis that you use when you own stock. What did you buy it for? And when you sell it, the basis that what you bought it for determines gain or loss. So the basis would be used for a sale. So you sell it, you subtract the basis, and you find out if you have a gain or loss. Gain or loss. That's what this basis is being used for. So back to here, what do you got? You have a situation where $1,000 was your basis, but you received $1,500 from the corporation. That's $500 more than your basis. What does that usually tell you? What does that usually tell you if you compare this to that? Think about it. Well, your basis was 1,000, but you got 1,500. So act like the 1,500 was a sale minus your basis, And you, my friends, have just experienced a capital gain. And that's exactly what happens. That's the way it works. If you get more than your basis from the corporation, it will be a capital gain. Now, it's not taxable to the S corporation itself. Again, the corporation is a non-tax-paying entity. Bingo, bango, bungo. That's it. But this additional amount that the shareholder got becomes a capital gain. One more example, just to maybe help you. Maybe it doesn't help you, but it helps me feel like I'm helping you. Okay, one more example. And that is, suppose the distribution is $1,000. Now you can see that the basis is 0, according to the formula. Distributions reduce the basis, it's 0. So that means that if $1 is distributed later, what's that going to be? Basis is 0. It's going to be $1 capital gain. And one more example, just to really drive home the point. I hope. You hope. We all hope. Let's see. Before I give you the example, before we said basis can't go below 0, because think about it, you buy a stock, you don't buy it at 0. You buy a stock, you might sell it, but after you sell it, you don't have the stock anymore. So if you receive distributions on S corporation stock, like we're talking about, and the distributions exceeds the basis, you can't have a negative basis stock. There's no such. You don't own assets with negative basis. If you do, it's a liability, and that's not the case here. This doesn't become a liability just because you receive more than your basis in distributions. So let's do this. Let's take a look at a distribution of that $1,000 again. And as we saw before, this brings the basis to 0. No problem. Now the next distribution, wrong color, is for $500. But the basis is 0. So you just received money for something that you already have a 0 basis in. And since we can't bring the basis below 0 any further, because that makes no sense, and if that doesn't make sense, just keep that as the rule, that the basis doesn't go below 0. So the next $500, we can't go below 0, so it has to be something, and it's that capital gain. So in this case, what we did is we took the same $1,500 distribution example we did before, and we broke it into the two parts, 1,000 part A, and then the second part B, in order to show why $500 is a capital gain. Alright, that's a lot of material. You might have to go over that again. You might have to look at Piper's book. You might have to read about it in your textbook to make sure you got it. So let's stop here and we'll do more in a little bit.